My next guest is the author of a new book, Change Everything, Floating Aspirations of Free Education to Less Stuff But More Life and Genuine Democratic Opportunities for All. The book is a practical guide to rethinking, repairing and rebuilding the way we live for a fairer future, rejecting the adage that greed is good, inequality doesn't matter, and we can keep treating the planet as a mine and a dumping ground. Natalie Bennett brings together a holistic, hopeful and practical vision for the future, and she joins me on the program now. Thank you ever so much for joining us this morning. One of the things that struck me ahead of speaking to you about the book is this call, a radical call, it seems, to force all 18-year-olds to serve in the military for 12 months. That's from the Tories. Labour suggesting that 16-year-olds should get the vote. Is this the democratic process you hope will suddenly take place and be the beginning of great things for us?
Well, 16-year-olds getting the vote, absolutely. That's something I've long time been calling for, and it's absolutely lovely to be with you and talking about a positive view of the future this morning. I think maybe we should even think about going younger than 16-year-olds in the future. That's something to look forward to. In terms of the whole idea of national service, I mean, really, this is looking like going back to the 20th century. What I talk about in the book, in Change Everything, is a universal basic income and an idea that people can decide how to spend their time, energy and talents for themselves. The suggestion of national service is absolutely going backwards. And if we think about so many young people today, perhaps they're going off to university or college, they're working 2 or 3 jobs to try and make ends meet because they simply don't have enough money otherwise. They've got a couple of side hustles thinking about the future. And the idea that they're then going to spend their weekends being directed what to do by Rishi Sunak, I mean, really, it is something out of the 20th century.
You say in the book that we are in a great position to build a better world. How?
Well, we're in a great position now because it's very clear where we are now is profoundly unstable. That's economically, environmentally, politically, socially, educationally. I mean, the weight of debt we're putting on our young people, and at least 50% of them will never actually pay that debt off. So the idea that this is actually a loan that's being paid back is essentially a fiction. But we have the climate emergency, the nature crisis, and of course many people are feeling desperate about the state of the world. But also what we're doing now is trashing the planet and creating a thoroughly miserable society, a deeply unhealthy society. So lots of people, when they talk about dealing with the climate emergency and nature crisis, they think about things like solar panels and electric cars and insulation. And of course, we need all those sort of things. But what we really need is social innovation to build our society so that it works for people and planet.
And when you say social innovation, just unpack that for us. What do you mean by that, and what kind of elements would it consist of?
Well, thinking about changing education, as you referred to, free education, but also we need an education that prepares people for life, not just for exams and not just for paid work. Education that teaches people how to grow food, how to cook food, think really crucial things like first aid, understanding the financial system, understanding how our society works, thinking critically. We've got a lot of talk and a lot of concern around the election about deep fakes. Well, what we need is people to be able to look at something and critically think about it. But at the same time, how can a teacher do that when in the next lesson they're going, right, you have to say these 10 things in the exams to get maximum marks, don't question, just scramble to write these things down. So we need an education system. We need a democratic system. We're coming into an election, but if you look at the last election, the Conservative Party got 100% of the power in the House of Commons over 4.5 years with 44% of the vote of the people who voted. So we need to make our society work so people have a democratic say, and people need to feel empowered. We need a society where everyone makes politics what they do, not have done to them. At the moment, everything's being shut down and people are being told to just do what you're told.
And it's interesting because one of the themes that appears to run through the book is the notion of community and how important it is. Have we lost touch with that notion?
We haven't lost touch with it, but it's been buried deep under lots of giant multinational companies with their giant advertising billboards everywhere, with them dominating our life. I mean, I was actually in Penrith Station yesterday, and it was wonderful to see. I put it out on social media. There's a sort of old-style greengrocer's cart, and what they've got there is the local community gardeners have a space where if you've got growing some extra tomato seedlings, more than you need, you put them there, and someone else can come and pick up the tomato seedlings. No money involved, no trade-offs. It's simply people have got something that others might want and they share it. And that kind of community is there, but it's been very much squashed by the financialisation, the commercialisation of our society.
How has technology helped or hindered our growth as a society?
Well, I'm broadly a technological optimist, but I'm not a technological determinist. So I don't think technology determines what our society is like. We can make choices about how to use that technology, and we can use that. I mean, a lovely example from a few years ago, you might recall there was a big controversy about street trees in Sheffield, and the community came out to defend those trees. Well, I got really excited when I saw that in New Delhi, inspired by Sheffield, seeing what they'd seen on social media, they'd started a street tree protection group in New Delhi. So that's an example of the way in which, good ideas can spread. We hear lots about bad ideas spreading, but good ideas can be spread too. And, you don't have to go viral. You don't have to be a giant right-wing media tycoon. Someone makes the right video that just catches the zeitgeist. They can be a 16-year-old in their bedroom. They can catch the zeitgeist that it can go viral with a really positive message.
It's interesting on the programme today, we've talked about hygiene poverty and the growth thereof of something like 4.2 million people now needing support in that area. We've talked about initiatives that prevent young people falling into crime, but these are volunteer-led. For government, though, I mean, your notion of what the government's responsibility in these sort of areas should be.
Well, I think one of the things we have to do is have Westminster get out of the road. And I mean, again, the national service thing is more Westminster telling everyone how to do. We need to build up the strength of our local communities, of our local councils, of regional governments. But also, when you're thinking about criminal justice, I mean, the Green political philosophy has always been very different when looking at criminal justice. The chapter on that in Change Everything is called Repairing the Broken. And, we have so many children, with the poverty, with the levels of poverty we've got now, adverse childhood experiences, that's really doing damage to people, and we have to repair those people. One of the things that I think we're going to see a great turnaround in the next few years is we have, lots of talk about we've got to find jobs for people. Well, I think we have to look at human resources. We've got an ageing population, the birth rate's falling off a cliff, and this is true around the world. We need to think of human resources as a valuable, rare resource that we have to treasure and allow every human being to develop to their full potential, and allow them through something like a universal basic income to actually choose how they spend their time, rather than a boss telling them and the state telling them you have to work in this terrible, miserable call centre where every call has to last less than 54 seconds and you're timed when you go to the loo. And then lots of us have to spend all of our time on the phone talking to those call centres.
But if everybody did what they wanted to do, how would society advance?
Well, I think people want to contribute. People want to make a difference. And I say in Change Everything that, yes, there may be some jobs, and I use as an example sewer cleaners. Maybe not a lot of people are going to fancy cleaning the sewers. Maybe we have to pay sewer cleaners very well. Maybe we have to pay sewer cleaners more than we pay bankers. Maybe we should pay sewer cleaners more than we pay bankers.
Healthcare is a subject that you delve into in the book. People are very concerned at the moment around whether or not the NHS can survive in its current form, or the original form that it was set up to do, into the future. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the NHS services free at the point of use are an absolute foundation of society. We need universal services just like we need a universal basic income. But one of the things that is not nearly enough talked about is that we are a deeply unhealthy society because of the structure of our society. We have unhealthy homes which make people ill. We have, you were talking about poverty, the insecurity, the stress that is making people ill. We have filthy air and filthy rivers. We clean all of those up. We give people, say, a 4-day working week as standard with no loss of pay that gives people a chance to live a healthy life, that makes active transport possible. We have to look at how our society, and particularly our broken food system, in which a healthy diet costs 3 times as much as an unhealthy diet. We have to look at all of those things and say we need the NHS there for us when we need it, but we actually need a much healthier society that's going to put much less pressure on the NHS.
And in conclusion, are you hopeful that, given everything, the work that you've done throughout your life, this book itself, that those kind of changes can happen?
I'm absolutely hopeful, because the thing that I know is where we are now is profoundly unstable. Things are going to be very different in 5 or 10 years' time. I mean, it was about a decade ago when I started saying the future of politics doesn't look like the past. And if you think of everything that's happened over the last 10 years, that's very much the case. And I really believe in human potential, human capacity. There's a wonderful book by David Graeber and David Wensom called The Dawn of Everything, about 200,000 years of human beings, roughly how long we've been on this planet. All the wonderful, amazing, creative ways in which different societies have chosen to live. We can choose to live in a different way. And at the core of that is empowering people, helping people to understand they can make a difference. Doing politics might be organising a litter pick in your street. It might be setting up a community garden. It might be going and having a cup of tea with the lonely old person down the street. We've got to free up people to use their human potential.
Thank you ever so much for joining us this morning. I was speaking there to Natalie Bennett. The book is Change Everything: How We Can Rethink, Repair and Rebuild Society.